RSA offers business-driven security solutions that provide organizations with a unified approach to managing digital risk and designed to effectively detect and respond to advanced attacks, manage user access control, and reduce business risk, fraud, and cybercrime. For a limited time, get mobile multi-factor authentication from RSA Secure ID Access for free to help secure your remote or dynamic workforce long-term. Leverage push notification, biometric, and one-time password authenticators to secure access to your cloud applications, on-premises systems, legacy systems, privileged accounts, and more at no cost for 6 months. For more information, visit securityweekly.com/RSA Security.
Welcome back to Security and Compliance Weekly, episode 34. In our second segment today, we are very pleased to welcome Ms. Bat to the show. She's bringing the perspective from the hacker part of the world to our discussion today, and we're anxious to hear what she has to say, especially about security and compliance. Before we jump into the discussion, though, I do have a couple announcements. We are in the process of looking for high-quality guest suggestions for all of our podcasts here at Security Weekly Productions. Especially, we're looking at our Q3 recording schedule. If you have an idea of topics or people that you think would be interesting people for us to interview, you can go to our website, securityweekly.com/guests, and fill out the guest invitation form. I guess guest request form. We review these suggestions as we receive them, and we'll get back in touch with you once we've done the review. Also, our first July webcast is coming up, and in that we are going to learn how to stitch and enrich flow data for security with Viavi Solutions. You can register for our upcoming webcasts or virtual trainings by visiting securityweekly.com/webcasts. Or you can also go to securityweekly.com/on-demand and view any of our previously recorded webcasts and virtual trainings. All right, enough of that.
Jeff, I keep wanting to say like snitches get stitches, but like it doesn't work with flow data. I don't know. Maybe flow data. Anyway,
I hear flow data, and I have 3 daughters, and my mind goes somewhere else completely.
Oh dear God.
Oh dear
so
God.
I'm not touching anything.
We're not taking that one. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, in honor of it being my 30th wedding anniversary, I will tell one story about my wife. We, in our younger days, when our kids were younger, we used to be counselors at the church summer camp, and it's co-ed. There's boys and girls. We'd go to this campsite in West Virginia, and one of the traditions of this summer camp was at the end of the week we would give out special awards, and it was usually, silly, stupid things that happened during the week. So it was slight ribbing of the kids and stuff like that. And the counselors, the night before the last day, we would stay up to the wee hours, and it was usually a very funny time coming up with, what happened funny during the week that we could laugh about and let off a little steam. There was a year where, for some reason, I think every single female in the camp was cycling. And my wife, for whatever reason, was the keeper of equipment, so to speak. And so she was like several times a day being approached by somebody asking for supplies. So her award for that week was Go with the Flow. But
oh God.
Anyway,
okay, let's go into our guest and how they're doing.
Anyway,
Ms. Bat, how are you?
Thank God we have a lawyer on this show.
Yeah.
I got dad jokes. What can I say? Ms. Bat, welcome. Security and Compliance.
Ms. Bat, have you ever had an intro like that?
That was the new one for me. You just went straight to menstruation joke, but let's
you
go.
said the word.
I did. Because it's important to use biologically accurate terms when discussing the female body.
If you
Look
say
at
so.
you,
Yes.
see, I'll see your weird joke and make it way more awkward. Let's go. I could do this all day.
I just want to register. I feel microaggressed at the present moment. Just so
don't go there.
Well,
all over you. Okay.
All right. Before the wheels come completely off this segment, Ms. Bat, welcome to the show. Ms. Bat, in case anybody doesn't know, she is a a frequent purveyor of hacker conferences, speaking at conferences, doing workshops, especially in helping people prepare for job interviews, doing resume reviews and things like that. I know I've volunteered for the things at least once. I don't even remember which conference it was, except for I think it was DerbyCon. We like to start off all of our interviews with the same question. So, Ms. Batt, what is your take from the hacking world that you come from on this thing that we call the security versus compliance continuum?
You get this is weird, right? Okay. So
Only to you.
I just like, I mean, it's the same trope, right? Like, a compliance policy isn't going to make a system more secure. But, you know, I can't take my business hat off to say, but we have to do what we have to do. So,
Well, remember, we're on a podcast. It's okay to swear. It's okay to be crude and rude. And it's okay to say what you honestly think. Go for it.
Yeah, don't hold back with us.
Like 2/3 of the compliance things are just like bullshit. So, but we're going to do them. And my views don't represent those of my employer. So, you know, it's that push pull, like people at the end of the day, I have the same story to tell, right? Everyone wants to build a more secure system. It's just people have different backgrounds and expertise and opinions on how to make that happen. And unfortunately, a lot of agencies and industries rely so much on compliance to like check boxes, get VC funding, get the ATO, whatever the thing is, that they kind of like miss the beat of the story, which is like, is the system really secure? I'm cool with both. I'm not cool with just relying on compliance to call something secure. And I don't know any security practitioners who are, so I don't think I'm like a minority or saying anything like groundbreaking.
No, they go together. They work together very well. They are, I've always said that they're symbiotic. And I think I'm hearing very similar things from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Ms. Bad.
It's like boring though. Like I want to build fun things and it's like super boring that you have to follow a checklist when you build it. That's all.
Ms. Bad.
That actually, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask a different question. So if you had somewhere you wanted to go ahead.
Well, yeah, before we change gears, I'm interested in the last thing you said because I am a hacker and I've known a few hackers over the years, and very times the hackers are the builders and the builders are the ones with the root accounts and the domain admin accounts. And very often I see an attitude, which you just sort of hinted at, that, don't tell me what to do. I want to do it my way. So, and I'm curious, since you brought it up, you must see it too. But how much of the friction that there exists between the hacking community and the other side, the compliance community, is based on people that simply don't want to follow a list, people that think, well, no, I got this. For better or for worse, how much of it do you think is that attitude? Don't tell me what to do.
That's a good question. Like I can only really speak for myself, but I do want to experiment and I do want to build cool shit. And I do want to see what happens if I stand this one open source thing up in Lambda and like, is it going to break this other thing? And if it does, like, ooh, how can we break it worse? But then the goal of that experimentation is to figure out how to build it so it's not breakable. And then you end up building this cool thing that you can't use anywhere because I don't know, like the feds insist on using GovCloud to hit the FIPS 199 requirements or whatever. And like all the cool shit you did with it, you built with tools that are only available in like AWS commercial cloud. Now that said, like GovCloud is trying to, implement some of the tooling from commercial cloud. So, cause they're like responding to that problem, but it's like the spirit of it, right? Like I want to just go, like, just let me go and let me build and let me make and let me create. And then like you figure out the compliance part, because that's not my problem.
Okay, so whose problem is it? Let's stop for a second. Whose problem is it? You
like
raised a really good point. I want to build cool shit. I want to build fun things. I want to try this. I want to experiment with that. You got a problem? I've got a solution. Let's make this shit happen. Yeah. And then the auditor comes by and went, did you do these 15 things? And you're like, well, that's not my problem. So whose problem is it? Let me, serious question. Whose problem is it?
The engineering intern.
Like, that's fine.
Like, they can go figure out how to make it better. I don't know. Or no, I mean...
That like the engineering intern is the appropriate one. That's cool. But is that who you think is the appropriate person to handle all of those needs?
Like that's the thing. It depends. It depends on the control. Like if it's you didn't implement, password length restrictions or whatever. Okay, like can someone else just figure that out so I can keep it's a very diva attitude, right? But this is why what I said in the earlier segment, like if you give me the list first, so then from this place of like balancing being a diva and like understanding that at the end of the day, I really want this thing to ship. Like if I have the list in advance, then I can maybe adhere to some of those constraints, right? Yeah, like think about solving the problem. Like that's if I know what I want to do, but I also accept the reality that if I do that thing, it's never going to get shipped. So I have to find a good balance with my time. And usually it ends up being home fun projects is the way to do that. Although at Trust, we do a lot of experimentation. I feel like it's
you also work at Trust. Our previous guest also works at Trust. Funny coincidence.
I mean, experimentation, like we love it, but we also have these constraints that aren't so great sometimes, right? Like building the best thing isn't always going to be the most like compliant thing. And the best thing would mean the most secure thing, right?
It isn't necessarily the most secure thing. It isn't necessarily the most compliant thing. It isn't necessarily like the best way to do it. But building the coolest thing is I've done something really neat. And then when you put it in the mind of a production security person, a production enterprise security person, they go, okay, now we've got to lock it down. We've got to secure it. We've got to make it secure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then along that way, the process of performing that is the process of becoming compliant. Because compliance done right is, hey, do you have the proper ports closed? Well, yeah, I did that to secure it. Okay, we're good. Do you have the access control set up properly? Yeah, of course, I did that to secure it. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, but most companies don't look at it like that.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, right.
It's a process.
They care about making a sale versus doing the compliance, right? Now, what I want to say is, Ms. Batts, if knowing what you know about how government and corporations work with compliance, looking at it from a hacker perspective, and this is a general answer, I'm not looking for specifics, how would you fix it? What would you do to fix it?
How would you fix the world?
Well, what do you mean, like, fix it, though? You mean, like, make it shippable? Make it compliant? Or do you mean, like, make it secure? Or...
How would you fix the system so that the software that comes out, the shiny new piece of technology, is actually secure out of the gate? At least, I mean, we can't ask for 100% security. There's no such thing. But how so it's secure out of the gate as well as we can, at least to a certain standard, which, by the way, is known as compliance. How would you fix the system so that instead of It works. Ship it now. It's
And if
Yeah.
you say
works and it's
DevSecOps,
secure.
that's only part of the answer.
Right.
How would
well,
you secure
okay.
it so that?
So
How would you fix it so it's secure out of the gate?
Well, so part of the way that I'm trying to solve that problem is by assigning a security engineer to like the A team, like the Go team, the team building the thing. So in the same way we have a research and design person, a UX designer, an engineer, a product manager, an infrastructure person, like then there's also a security person, and building that into like our contract models to say to our customers like, hey, this is super important and it's a pay me now or pay me later. But if we start our projects with a security engineer on the project, like from inception, like right in during the discovery phase, right, then we can start thinking about this concept of baked in security and have the person there all along partnering with the engineers to say, okay, but, or yes, and, right? And this is separate from like the delivery manager who's looking at the compliance pieces, and just having them all together, like sprinting together, stand-ups together, like unblocking each other. And that's the only way that I know how to start, is to stop trying to throw security at shit at the end and have it be part of it all along. You're really quiet. Did I mess up?
No, you didn't mess up.
There's actually a great discussion happening on Discord right now where people
Yeah.
are going, so are you saying that, it should be build it, then secure it? Or build it, ship it, then secure it, or
Nope.
build it, and Jeff, you had a great point about, we're talking about building a secure system, but PCI Drink is more process program oriented. And the answer is that, it's all process program oriented if you think about it properly. Building a system, along the way, with security along the way, means that the process of using the system is going to be secure and compliant. Okay.
Not just security, making sure that legal is involved as well to cover the risk.
Right. And like
John, that's
if
your
you can
cue.
incorporate your system security plan right from the beginning. So if you make a change that you then document in the SSP and which control it satisfies, like one change you make may end up satisfying like 5 or 10 controls. So becoming familiar with the constraints that you have before you start building the thing, it's not like throw security at it at the end, right? I'm saying security should just be part of it all along. Like you're solving other problems during the build actively. Like we're working, presumably most of us, agile, with a small a, and being adaptable. So I don't know this. No wonder there's contention, right? When you've got a whole team who didn't have a security engineer, like in the regular model, you've got a whole team who just busted their ass and they got the thing and it's compliant and they're ready to ship it compliant, right? According to their checklist. And then they're like, okay, security, do your pass. And security is like, what the fuck is this? Like I popped this thing in, 10 minutes. But that model just doesn't work. Like no wonder everyone's mad at each other all the time. But if you were together in a room from the beginning, like maybe you would see each other differently or see the process differently. I don't know.
You're touching on probably the biggest gap I see between the two worlds since I've lived in each world, and that is the care and the attention that's put on building systems and programs and processes from a compliance oriented perspective, which also can include a lot of security. But from that side of the world, there doesn't always seem to be the appreciation or understanding that on the hacker side of the world, things are so easily broken. And I don't get the impression that that message is always very well conveyed or understood, or even in the realm of possibility of people that live on the sort of the compliance programmatic approach to security rather than the let's break it and see how it's broken side of security. I don't know if I'm blurring the lines there, but hackers know things are broken. Security people that are compliance oriented, they know to build things according to some list or some set of rules or some set of parameters, regardless of what it is. And they think they're done if they, well, we've made it secure. We've made it do all these XYZ things.
Yeah.
Do you have any, do you see that? And do you have any ideas of how to bridge that gap?
So there's a great project out there that it was called Compliance Masonry CLI, and then later called Project Boise through 18F, number 18 letter F, where I used to work with like incubator funding, and then inevitably that ran out. And now it sits on GitHub called Open Control. But it's open source software, and it's an attempt to automate the compliance piece of 853. Because the idea was, from its inception, shout out to Aidan Feldman, who spun that up initially. But at its inception, like, the thought was, if we could automate the compliance pieces, then we could spend all of our resources, time, energy, people, money on the security part. And I still believe that that's a thing that we could do. I still think automating compliance is possible. You'll find pieces of Compliance Masonry CLI, the original tool, in Red Hat. And we only found out that it hit Red Hat because somebody installed Red Hat on their machine. Like, Red Hat didn't tell us that they were rolling it into their OS. But I don't know if I answered your question, but I think there are like real ways that we can take some of the busy work out of the compliance piece so that we can like check those boxes, get through legal, but not have to spend a lot of time on it, so that we can focus our time on experimentation and research and really securing the system, locking down the system, being adaptable to change the way that we think we could do security on the system as soon as we get a new piece of information, and be willing to like change our course. And we don't have a lot of time to do that if we're caught up in the legalities of the compliance piece. So I don't know, automate compliance, fork Open Control, hit me up if you like can make it work, or if I can help you make it work. Like, I don't know. I think it's a good path.
Well, speaking of helping to make it work, I wanted to give you a moment to talk about what I think is one of your favorite projects, which is helping people, with resume review and mock interviews. How's that going, and how's that going now in the virtual world? Are you finding ways to keep it going? And just, I want to give you a minute to just tell us about your efforts there.
Yeah. The framework is on GitHub. It's my repo is MsBat, MZBAT for that. And it's called Mirror Mock Interview Resume Review. But the idea is, it's a passion project, and the idea really has grown from just like a lack of diversity in the security community. So the goal of the Mirror workshop at its inception was to partner experienced folks from the security community, either through resume reviews or mock interviews, with folks from underrepresented groups in tech, who were unemployed, underemployed, trying to get promoted, and like recognizing privilege and like sharing out with the community in a way that can, I believe wholeheartedly, improve the community. Because diversity of background, diversity in all forms, brings different voices to the table, and different voices are going to have different solutions to problems. And so that's like the birth of the Mirror Workshop. It's been during this time of COVID. I'll be honest with you, like I have a lot of Zoom fatigue. So running the workshop virtually hasn't been something that I've been interested in doing. I've asked folks to contribute to the repo if they have been able to pull the framework and run the workshop virtually. And I think I'm probably, don't hold me to this, but going to try to run it virtually for B-Sides Orlando.
You heard it here first on Security and Compliance Weekly.
I guess. Go ahead and hold me to it. So right now, what I have the energy for is one-on-one mentorship. Not a lot of it, but trying to just not say no to everything. I'm saying no to 95% of things. But, if folks genuinely need help, then I'm doing my best. For folks who've asked for help and I've had to like point you in someone else's direction, it's like nothing personal. It's just, it's Zoom fatigue. It's very hard to be self-sequestered. I'm very socially sort of anxious anyway. But there's a difference in like choosing not to be around people versus forced not to be around people. So I'm still trying to find that balance. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
It did, and well, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to share something you're passionate about, even though understanding it's challenging, like everything else is challenging these days. I have a knock joke for you, real quick.
Oh, good.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Control freak. Now you say control freak who?
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. Have we moved to like the dad joke segment?
Sure.
Because I have one. Knock.
Who's there?
Go.
Dwayne.
Dwayne who?
Dwayne the tub. I'm drowning.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, my kid told me one. You ready? How do you hurt Lady Gaga?
How?
I'm
you
terrified.
poker face.
Oh, that's actually really good.
Oh.
That's actually really good.
So good.
That's actually
So
really good.
If our audience takes nothing else away from today's segment, it's that hackers have a sense of humor and business professionals don't.
Wow.
No. We all have the dad joke sense of humor. It's horrible.
Security
Okay?
is no laughing matter, or something like that.
Oh my God, Cactus! He keeps his dad jokes in his database.
That's really good.
I have to jump in here now because I do have a burning question for Ms. Batt.
All right, we have time for one more question, especially a burning one.
It's a burning question, and it's because in my legal career, I have and do occasionally represent hackers seeking bug bounties. And the whole idea of a bug bounty is kind of interesting because it's something that doesn't exist in law. There's no law that says if you find XYZ, vulnerability, you can cash it in for X amount of money. And yet the practice has developed. And I would say that it's an example of practice keeping up with technology where law doesn't. It's a very interesting topic, and I was wondering what your view on the topic generally is, and sort of, have you seen kind of a etiquette or a set of informal rules on how bug bounties are valued? Have you seen any of that evolve?
Okay. So I'll start by saying I did draft the first vulnerability disclosure policy for GSA and then open sourced it so that other agencies could think about VDPs. So my interest is in vulnerability disclosure policies and scope. So that said, a bug bounty program can't exist without a VDP that clearly outlines scope and has some good faith language about not arresting folks.
What is VDP?
VDP, vulnerability disclosure policy. So
okay.
that's
VDP.
That's
okay.
So the VDP is the law piece. That's the policy piece. Like that's the thing that you need to pay attention to. Be careful that you read, like the authoring person, legal team needs to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So you can have a vulnerability disclosure policy without implementing a bounty program. You cannot do it the other way around. Like you have to have a VDP to have a bounty program because the VDP establishes the rules of engagement. Okay, so I just for folks who didn't know, I just want to do due diligence there. Like you can't just go out hunting bugs without knowing that you need to pay very close attention to that VDP. And if it says you can't pivot, then you don't pivot. And under no circumstances should you exfiltrate data. There's my soapbox for that. So that said, like bug bounties themselves kind of fall into this weird gig economy place for me. I think that, if I want to say it's very few folks pull down that $1 million bounty. Like very few folks are going to be able to make a living just bug hunting. There are folks who do make a living bug hunting. They're very familiar with the VDPs of all the systems that they're hunting in.
Yep.
I've seen folks find bugs, focus on just like one company, and then have the company end up hiring them. So one of my friends went from being a bug hunter to being a security researcher at Tesla because they kept finding Tesla bugs, and that's awesome. In general, though, it's gig work. Like you don't get health insurance, you're not going to get benefits. You're going to need a day job because it's a lot like Broadway, like very few people make it to that main stage on Broadway.
Wow.
So very few bug hunters are going to be able to make a living. So you're going to have a job. So then you have to think about like, how much is your time worth? If you're doing it for fun and it's interesting and whatever, like have at it. But as the system is structured right now, it is not designed to support pen testers as like their job. I don't know. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? I think that in the same way some of the laws will change around gig economy with Uber and Lyft, like we'll probably see those shifts with bug bounty folks as well. But well, not a lawyer.
I think you make a very good point about never exfiltrating data and basically don't go any farther than you need to go to verify the vulnerability.
Right.
And but the other aspect that I would say, and I have represented hackers. Oftentimes they come to me after they've found the vulnerability and done whatever they did, and then they're like, well, what do we do from here? I would always say if you're a bug bounty person, get a good relationship with a lawyer and have the lawyer write the letter, because you're going to want that layer of insulation in a lot of cases, because people react in all different ways.
Yeah. And the good faith piece of it is really important, and it's so vague. But if you stumble onto something else because you accidentally pivot, or you pivot and didn't realize you popped out of scope or whatever, talk to a lawyer. Like, honesty may be your best policy.
Now I'll give you the other side of it.
Not. Yeah.
I'll give you the other side of it, because this one, this actually involved a very prominent law firm who I will not name, but you've all heard of it. And so the bug bounty, the person who found the vulnerability, sent a letter to the company and said, "This is what we found, and we'd like to negotiate a bounty because it's obviously very valuable what we found." And the lawyer went to a lawyer. The lawyer wrote back to the hacker and said, "Oh, that isn't worth anything. You didn't even take control of any of our servers." So there's the first thing: is if you're a lawyer talking to a hacker, don't taunt them. But what then happened, this is my favorite story, and I do not condone anyone doing this, so this is not legal advice. This is merely a war story. But so the hacker received the letter from the lawyer saying you didn't take control of any of the servers. And so he went on and fired up a server and had it mine Bitcoin for a little while, left them with the tokens. He did not take the tokens. He told them where the tokens were. And that was how this particular person proved that he had, in fact, gotten a vulnerability. So the moral of the story is, if you're a lawyer and you have a hacker, don't taunt them. By the way, the guy got paid for it in the end, very well.
Yeah, I was going to say, most hackers are going to look at that as like challenge accepted.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I was like, what moron would be like, ha, you didn't even get it. I'm like, they are going to spend the next 72 hours getting in there.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I have no thoughts on that. I do want to ask Ms. Batt, just sort of as a wrap-up question, because our time is running out. We promised on our social media feed that you would talk about dogs, human centipede memes, and how to avoid a tweet going viral. So I will let you pick one of the three to mention as a parting thought.
Well, my dogs aren't in here
Okay.
because
Strike
they would have
that
barked.
one. Okay, you got two choices now.
Having the tweet go viral, that's probably like, there's a whole talk in there somewhere about
All right,
the anatomy of a viral tweet, and so that leaves human centipede memes. So the reason that I periodically put human centipede memes on my Twitter feed is to troll federal CISOs and executives who I see start following me, because
so they
it was
get in
rooted
trouble?
but it was like rooted in this place where for a long time, a really long time, my handle, Ms. Batt, was not tied to my real name for years. I've had this handle.
So what
since
is your real name?
Kimber Dowser. Now it's forever. No. There was
We've tied her identity down.
No, it's fine. So I spoke on a crypto panel at Access Now, and the feds put out a press release about it, and that was the first time that my name was tied to my handle, which sucked. But then all of a sudden, a lot of feds, a Fed CISO started following me. So I'm like, I was angry and I was like a big fuck you. So I just started tweeting like nonstop Human Centipede. And then it just became like a joke that I could tweet about security and get maybe 5 guys who would just argue with me, and then some trolls and nothing. And I could tweet a stupid, like at Christmas time, Human Centipede meme and get like 500 new followers. So it was just like this awful joke that like, as a woman in security, if I tweet about security, I get like one set of reactions. But if I just tweet like dank memes, I get this other one. I don't know. It was funny. So now it's just a thing. Like if I see, you know, I don't know, the head of security at Google, hey man, what's up? Follow me. Then you'll see a Human Centipede meme pop up in my feed, so that I'm like, hey, welcome to my feed and all its glory.
All right. Well, we made sure that you lived up to the billing and the advertising. Want to thank you so much for taking the time today, and especially taking on the challenge of playing a dual role. And I hope that wasn't too uncomfortable for you. I found it somewhat fascinating to just kind of see the difference in perspective that you brought. So on behalf of the other co-hosts and our entire listening audience, Kimber, Ms. Batt, thank you for joining us today. And that's going to wrap us up for this week.
Thank you.
See you next time.